Parents of Reddit, what's your best example of reversed psychology on your kids that actually worked? My dad used to play a game to see who could match and fold the most laundry. He never once won. Oh, he was winning alright. Split custody with my ex. When my son was around 10, he visited 2 weekends a month. I was waiting tables and didn't have a huge amount to spend, but he was so needy from divorce, and I'm not blaming him. It was ugly. He begged constantly for more when he was with me. Whatever more was, it didn't matter. He'd be eating ice cream cone and begging for teriyaki. I finally realized that he just felt empty, and getting more whatever from me wasn't filling him up. His next visit I handed him $100 in cash and told him it was our food fun budget for 3 days and 2 nights, and he was in charge of it. I bought him his own wallet to carry. We figured out how many times we were going to eat and what we were going to do, and he paid. He got to keep whatever money he had left, thought he was rich, then realized just how much everything cost. Well, shoe on other foot then. If we had no money for food, we ate leftovers, and I didn't contribute more to pot. After a few weekends of running short or not getting something he actually wanted because he was foolish with funds, he started to really think about how to spend that money. He budgeted and kept to his budget, and a few times he actually went home with a little cash for his private stash. Many years later, he thanked me for this. It really changed the way he thought about money and love. My wife used to tell the kids that I didn't want them to try new things because I didn't want to share it with them. Sometimes they'd like it and I'd make a big deal out of it about having to share with them. Sometimes they'd say, "This one is all yours, Dad. You win some, you lose some," but at least they would typically try things this way. When I was a kid, I refused to get up in the morning. My mom said we were going to trick my dad into thinking I was still asleep. So she made me put on clothes and then hide under the covers and pretend to be asleep. Then my dad would come in to wake me up and I would fool him because I was already dressed and ready. This worked on me for years and I never questioned it. In hindsight, it's pretty obvious that my parents just wanted me to get dressed without a fuss. When I was a kid, I refused to get up in the morning. I'm in my 20s and I still do this. Took my 3-year-old son to one of those doctor's visits where he was going to get a shot. He was worried about the shot on the whole drive over, almost to the point of tears. We get to the doctor's office and a nurse subtly lets me know that my son is not just scheduled for 1 shot, but 5 of them in the same visit. I turn to my son with an exaggerated smile and tell him, "Good news. They figured out how to take that 1 big shot you were going to get and instead break it up into these 5 little tiny shots so it won't hurt nearly as much." You could see the relief wash over his face. He stopped squirming and relaxed completely. He took the first shot and even smiled and said, "It's true. The small ones don't hurt." We actually made it through the 3rd shot before the effect wore off and reality kicked in. Still, I counted it as a victory. No, you cannot take this after school science extracurricular activity. They have robots, lasers, explosions, and other dangerous stuff like that. I don't know if it was truly reverse psychology or an exhausted response out of desperation. We were in Ljnel, the grocery store, checking out. Kid was 3, and the meltdown started and quickly became an on-the-floor tantrum. I looked down and said, louder than normal, but not yelling, "Where is your mother? We need to find your mom." She was startled, because I am her mom, and confused. But the tantrum ended quickly, and with hugs. If you can't console them, confuse them. My mom would tell me she only lets me eat soup after candy and she'd only buy me candy that I didn't like. After a few times, I stopped trying and begged her to let me eat soup first. She gave me a smirk and told me go ahead. This doesn't sound as evil as it was, but trust me, I suffered. When I was in 5th grade, I won the DARE medal and got to speak at DARE graduation. When I showed my mom the medal, she laughed and said, "Oh, that's cute. We'll see how you feel about drugs in high school." That pee me off to no end. So I never did drugs, just to prove my mom wrong. Or mom was just really cool and letting you know. It seemed like the minute my son realized he was going through puberty, he developed a need to show everyone how strong he was, usually by carrying things. Now, my son was a rather small, wiry, hyperkinetic kid, not at all a football player or weightlifter type. Yet I noticed starting when he was around 13 that if something heavy or heavyish needed moving, He was always right there, with a need to show he could do it. I took full advantage. I don't think I lifted anything heavier than my purse until he moved out. All I had to do was mention that I was going to put X in Y place, put the suitcases in the car for vacation, carry that gigantic load of laundry upstairs, etc. and pretend like it was too heavy for me, and he would appear as if summoned from the universe to do it for me. The reverse psychology aspect was my saying, oh my, that looks heavy, and him proving to me that no it's not. I have a 3.5-year-old. He picked up the word frick. Anytime he said it, I would calmly walk over, grab a fork, and bring it to him. After a few times, he thought he was just mispronouncing the word, and dropped it altogether. The old tried and true, bye, I'll see you later, as you pretend to leave the house whenever they refuse to put their shoes on, works like a freaking charm. My 2-year-old that was just hiding behind the recliner comes a running when she hears that phrase. The 7-year-old has tried to call the bluff, but I just bluffed my way out to the car before she came running outside. You really were going to leave me? Guess not, maybe next time. I roll. My in-laws tried this on my son when he was a kid. They were at a carnival and he didn't want to leave, so they pulled the whole "bye, we're leaving without you" bluff. He said bye back and then sprinted into a crowd. Mum had sworn a bit around the house. When while out at the supermarket, I said the F word really loudly, very quickly and intently. She asked if I had just said truck and said that was a bad word and not to ever say truck like that again. I thought that was the bad word, so used that when being naughty. When my niece was 5, she thought that word shoot, as in oh shoot, was a bad word. She chastised her dad whenever he said it around her. He'd apologize. I remember when she said shoot around me and she thought she was in trouble. One of my best friends through childhood used to be punished with no salad if she misbehaved. She cherishes salad now and would always try to eat as much as possible during school lunch. Coincidentally, her now husband used to be punished with no books. It had the same effect. I think it's hilarious that they'd be hitting the salad bar and library like some black market their narc parents couldn't reach. My dad once made the mistake of telling me that his parents never balked at his college expenses if he was spending his money on books. Well, I adore reading, I always have, and you better believe I spent way more money at Barnes & Noble than your average 18-22-year-old. And not just on coffee or junk, all books, all the time. I'm 35 and still lugging them around. My child was reluctant when it came to putting away toys. However, he loves timed tasks and is very competitive. I'd instruct my child to put away all the red toys as fast as possible, then blue, then green, etc. Toys away. Don't know if this counts, but at my high school, private, boys only, in the 1960s, they made a big deal about how long your hair was, and would occasionally order a boy to go home and get a haircut. I thought it was stupid, until years later, a master confided to me at a reunion that the policy was deliberate. The school figured we'd spend so much energy rebelling about hair length that we would ignore other aspects of teenage rebellion. Not surprisingly, they were mostly right. Dang, that's smart. Whoa. My uncle used to say, quick, before I give you $1, we would all run like mad to do whatever it was. I've used this on my kids and the look of confusion on their faces is all worthwhile. The cycle continues. Wanted to name my boat. Anything I would think of was dismissed as stupid by my 13-year-old son. After deciding on a name, I confided to a male friend my son liked. Made my friend suggest the name as though it was his idea. My son thought the name was perfect. Done. Teenagers are frickin' stupid. Source, was a frickin' stupid teenager. I bet you can't. Both of them hate the assertion that they're not capable of doing something. Can you put your toys away will almost certainly garner a hard no. But I bet you can't put all those toys back in the box. No way you'll be able to. Will have them whizzing round tidying like demons. Followed by a very indignant C. I told you I could. Cue fake surprise from me. They're only 4 and 7. So I know this has got limited time. But so far works like a charm every time. Go to up the ante until you get them. Bet you can't cure cancer. I taught my kids when they were toddlers that no amount of yelling, shaking or hitting can wake a sleeping adult. The only thing that works is a gentle hug and or a nice kiss on the cheek. Kid, Kisses you on cheek mommy, the house is on fire. At around 5 years old, our adopted son was mad about something and snapped, "You're not my real parents." We both laughed, and we never heard that line again. I did something like that as a kid. I was incredibly mad at my mom for something and said something along the lines of, "I'm adopted, I just know it." Spoiler, I'm not adopted. My mom then turned to me and said, "Right, like I would choose you." My mum had a friend that would put vegetables on her own plate and not the kids. When the kids asked, she would be reluctant to share. That's grown-up food. But I suppose I can let you have a little. Her kids grew up loving vegetables. I sat at the dinner table for 3 hours staring at the yucky cauliflower I refused to eat. My son was really impulsive when he was little and would try to run away from me when we would be crossing streets instead of holding my hand. So I started to tell him that he needed to hold my hand so nobody would try to steal me. It worked. He felt responsible for making sure nobody tried to kidnap me out in public. So I started to tell him that he needed to hold my hand so nobody would try to steal me. Oh my god, that's cute. My mum would always yell at us, "If you don't do X, you have to go to bed without socks." I never wore socks anyway, and I'm ashamed to admit that this worked. That would work really well on my son, or make him cry for a really long time. He's 3 and over the last few weeks has decided that he is fully unable to sleep without socks on. My parents always told me my broccoli were the flowers of the queen and that I really shouldn't eat them, or else the queen would get very upset. I, of course, ate the whole broccoli in a few seconds. I'm telling the queen and she's gonna be pee. I substitute teach sometimes, and if I get word ahead of time that the class is rowdy, I'll pretend I lost my voice. I write stuff down on a mini whiteboard, type on a screen. The students see that I need their help and they're a little easier to deal with. Facial expressions and gestures end up creating a naturally quiet environment. Always fun to surprise the kids at the end when I speak lol. I don't so much know if you would call it reverse psychology, but I didn't realize it until my dad told me this. When there were chores that needed doing, he noticed if he asked me to mow the lawn, I would complain and procrastinate. But if he asked would I rather mow the lawn or wash the windows, I'd pick one and just get it done. Shattered my brain when he told me when I was in my 20s. I use it when I'm coaching or babysitting all the time and it almost never fails. Do you want your dinner now or in 10 minutes? The illusion of choice. I use in 5 minutes all the time. Toddlers have no concept of how long 5 minutes is, so I can adjust as necessary. My 10-month-old daughter believes that falling over and hurting herself is a featuring to be celebrated with a dance and clapping. She's going to be a great skateboarder one day. Our kiddo skipped out on trying a lot of the more dangerous things because I told him to do them. In my most evil voice, "Try that piece of gum you found under the table. I bet it's still delicious." Mwahaha. Stick a fork in the electric outlet. I bet it makes a fun noise. Mwahaha. Take 3 cupcakes instead of just 1. It will make your tummy feel great. Mwahaha. Somehow an evil voice telling the kiddo to do something makes him realize it would actually hurt him, when me just saying don't do that means maybe it's fun but you're just not allowed. And now it's part of a fun game. Daddy, give me a test, and then I either give him a piece of good advice or bad advice. And he stops and thinks about the consequences, and tells me whether I'm being good or evil. It really puts him in a smart frame of mind instead of the borderline suicidal attitude he started out with. Hi, I was a victim. There was a forbidden book that I was not allowed to read on the shelf. My parents said I could only read it if I behaved myself. It was summer holidays and I was playing games all day. After 6 hours of summer homework, one day I was home alone and had the opportunity to grab it. I read like half of it in one go. It was 5,000 years of Chinese history. Safe to say I was bamboozled. Not reverse psychology exactly, but when my first son was about 4 he would often burst into our bedroom way too early in the morning, full of energy. It was up to me to either get up and engage with him or send him off on some mission so as to grab a few more precious minutes of shut-eye. One I'm proud of was telling him to find out which of his legs could run the fastest. He was charging around the corridor for ages doing a kind of manic goose step before he came back in panting that they were both the same. This is pure genius. Not really the same thing, but I love this story. My nephew had a day he decided to spit at people instead of reply normally. He's 2. He did it in response to what he wanted for lunch and she said, "That's it. Give me your tongue." He looked terrified, shook his head, and covered his mouth as if she was going to reach and take it. She said, "Then stop spitting, it worked like a charm. I will share this at his wedding someday." Dad and certified foster parent here. Best trick I learned. Give kids choices. Would you like water or apple juice? Would you prefer to read or make up your room? This way, you guide them, but it is their choice. Always give them option A or B. Maybe change B for C if they argue, but be firm. If they don't choose, then you tell them you will make a decision for them. At the end, they will choose and will feel a commitment to their choice. Best I saw was when the kid would never bother to take out the trash. The dad said it was fine and he'd do it, and that he was sorry for thinking the kid was mature enough to be responsible for anything. Really made him feel like a baby, and a week later he started taking the trash out without being asked. Not a parent, but my mother tricked me into learning Spanish by telling me my brother was better at it than I was. I work with toddlers and sometimes if they fall down or get hurt, then I'll clap and cheer and tell them, "Wow, that was so cool." They smile and get up instead of crying and continue playing. I only do this when they fall and pause thinking if they should cry or not. Growing up we never had soft drinks, soda, in the house. My mum would on a rare occasion buy Diet Coke for herself and tell my brothers and I, "WW yuck, why would you want this black drink?" To this day I think Coke is disgusting and it hurts my teeth. That's what our mum did with us. It worked till we were 10 or so. I've done this one with tens of kids. Anytime a kid gets hurt, falls down on grass, gets gently hit in the face with a ball, etc. Instead of stopping the activity to pick the kid up and see if they're okay, you just scoot them off to the side and resume. Within 10 seconds of not getting all the attention and seeing the fun is resuming, they pop right back up and are magically healed. This of course is only for the injuries that aren't actually injuries. Twice a year I'll let the kids eat whatever they want and do whatever they want. It ends up being a lot of junk food. The first maybe 3 times they ate so bad a few of them threw up. They now regulate themselves much better and choose quality snacks over quantity. Hahaha, we call that day yes day, and so far they are so stinking tame. I'm over here suggesting cake for breakfast and all they want is pancakes. We make pancakes every dang weekend. The craziest we've gotten is letting them stay up as late as they want. So, 10 PM. My younger brother had a general lack of confidence and had stammering problems when facing an auditions when he was in middle school. His earliest participation saw no success and he became further embroiled in self-loathing and general listlessness. I started to convince him to participate in more and more debates by telling him that whenever he'll face a defeat, we'll go somewhere and have a nice eat out or do something fun. Thinking probably that he wasn't perhaps very good at it, he started trying his hand at every single debate thereafter. Every time he lost, we used engage in some fun activity to his liking, and that just gave him the initial push into further involvement in the debating scene of his school. Eventually, he got good at it and started winning competitions after competitions. He's in his final year of schooling, is the best speaker of his school, has won several awards as testimony, has won slam poetry competitions, and even secured an international medal in an English Olympiad. We do fun activities now, too, but to celebrate his victories of course. Yay. You've been visited by luckiest pig in the world. Comment lucky piggy below to get some of his luck. If you are new to the channel, you can subscribe. I publish new videos every day. Until then, check another video, or don't. Either way, have a great day you magnificent people.